Because of that, it made me feel comfortable and complacent. And I wanted more. I was ambitious for more, but I didn't know how to. I was unconfident when I looked at myself in the mirror, couldn't stay off my fucking phone. I was constantly entertaining vices like alcohol, like porn, masturbation, women. I did something very, very extreme that helped me build this discipline. And this is where I'm getting into the obsession. Convinced in my head that if I could not commit myself to doing this, I would never be successful. Okay, and real quick before we start the video, I would appreciate if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to grow this up, and as you can see, I am small right now, so I appreciate each and every one of y'all who support me, and it is my vision to impact as many people as possible. So any type of support helps out, and I appreciate y'all. Let's jump in. You know, it takes a certain level of delusion to be hyper successful. I'm sure you've heard stories about successful guys, like, for example, Kobe Bryant, where he was waking up really fucking early, hitting like 3 or 4 workouts a day, even before game days. Like, obsessed levels of delusion trying to get what he wanted, which is becoming the best possible basketball player he could. And I always looked at these guys because from a young age, I've always studied success, always admired the guys who are in positions that I want to be myself. And I'm like, those guys have something I don't. They have a level of ambition, obsession that I don't. And I thought, maybe it was because I don't know verbatim like Kobe's backstory, but maybe because he had it harder than me. I come from suburbia. I lived in Midlothian, Virginia, right outside the outskirts of Richmond, Virginia. I lived in a white neighborhood. I was more than blessed, more than grateful to have what I have. My parents came from third world countries and did everything they could to provide the best possible life for me and my family. And I'm forever grateful because of that. But because of that, it made me feel comfortable and complacent. And I wanted more. I was ambitious for more, but I didn't know how to get that level of urgency and obsession because I felt so comfortable with where I was at. I had nothing I was running from. And I understand now that humans will run from pain far more than they will ever run from pleasure. So I'm thinking like all these success stories I hear they came from single mother households living in the slums of Chicago. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm just not going to be successful. Maybe I just don't have it. Maybe I just don't have that ambition, the mindset, the obsession. I realized that sometimes you have to just create that in your own way. I'll tell you why. When I had my first business, I was running a social media marketing agency. Ultimately, I ran it for 6 months. I made some money with it, but it failed. I was convinced that that business model did not work because I couldn't successfully figure out how to do client fulfillment on a high level and scale it up. And then 3 months later, when I quit that business, I come down to Miami, Florida for the first time. And I'm having dinner with two business owners, and I'm asking them, like, what business do y'all do? And they're like, oh, we run an agency. In the back of my head, I'm like, oh, y'all run an agency. I thought that was a dead model. And I'm like, that's cool, bro. Like, how much do y'all make with that? I mean, I didn't ask that specifically, but they were telling me, like, we're doing good. I'm like, okay, what is good? They said $300,000 a month. So it was a very humbling and eye-opening experience when I come down to Miami for the first time to meet other entrepreneurs for a mastermind event I came to. And the guys that I sat down and talked to at dinner were running the same exact model that I was convinced in my head that didn't work. And I self-analyze and self-reflect a lot because that's how you understand yourself more, and to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom, right? I think it's some kind of quote like that, to be honest. I don't really know. Um, but I'm trying to like self-reflect on the previous steps that I've took and the previous failures that I took, because if you're doing the same thing over and over again, like, you are literally insane. Like, why do you do the same things over and over again and expect a different result? So I'm self-analyzing. I'm understanding that, okay, the business failed not because it didn't work as a business model, but because 99% of the problems that I faced in that business were personal problems. I didn't have the discipline it took to be cold calling consistently 7 days of the week. I didn't have the discipline that it took to, really, really perfect my craft of client fulfillment so I could, scale it up. And I understood that I wasn't the man who could handle that successful business. If you gave me a $10,000 a month business at the time, like that man that I was before, it would go to the fucking ground because I didn't know how to run it, because I didn't have the mindset for it. And I understood that, okay, if I want to do more, if I want to be successful, if I actually want to make money online, then I have to develop myself better. Because at the time, I was nothing. I was fucking nothing. I was unconfident when I looked at myself in the mirror. I couldn't stay off my fucking phone. I was constantly entertaining vices like alcohol, like porn, masturbation, women. And I just couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything. I felt stuck and I felt complacent. And, I needed more. So I did something very, very extreme that helped me build this discipline. And this is where I'm getting to the obsession. I did something uncomfortable that I took inspiration from another person, waking up at an early time. Before I started, waking up early, I couldn't get myself to wake up before 6 a.m. Maybe once a month when I was very motivated and I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm gonna hit the gym today. I was playing Juice World. I was in my feelings in high school. I was born in 2004, so if you're my age, you relate. But it was only when I was motivated I could get myself to wake up early. And I'm thinking if I could do that every single day without a fail, without motivation, then I would have the discipline it takes to run a successful business and become successful. So for 9 months straight, I was waking up at 4:15 a.m. every single day. I've documented this on my YouTube channel. I've documented this on my Instagram. You can see every single time that I post on my stories throughout, the winters in Virginia where there was snow on the ground, where I had to there was a clip of me just like falling in the snow when I woke up at 4:15, which was I definitely woke up after that. But the basis is that I push myself to maximum discomfort. And I was able to wake up at 4:15 a.m. every single day without fail, without missing a single fucking wake up because I was convinced in my head that if I could not commit myself to doing this, I would never be successful. I was so fucking delusional in the head that I was waking up on Saturdays. I was waking up during the weekdays, right? On Sundays, every single day of the week, and I had nothing really better to do with my time. Like there was no one holding a gun to my head telling me to wake up that early. I had no good reason to wake up that early. Like I had nothing going on in the mornings except just like building up the business. And there was no logical reason for me to wake up that early, but I needed to be unlogical. I needed to do something fucking crazy. And it was a level of anxiety that I would feel every single morning where I had this burning, like I'm telling you, like heart burning anxiety in my chest from the lack of sleep, from the lack of fucking, my body felt like shit. My body was aching. I couldn't really fully recover. I was going on a very aggressive cut at the time. So like my body just wasn't recovering at all. And it like now that I think about it, it was the worst possible thing I did for my health because there were days where I went maybe like 2 or 3 hours with sleep and I just could not function mentally or physically. And like I literally felt like my body was deteriorating from the lack of sleep that I was getting because like that was, sleep was very important and it still is. But I didn't care about the lack of sleep at the time. What I cared about more was the fact that I was building up the discipline and committing myself to doing something that I didn't think I could do. And I was so delusional in the head that I was just doing this over and over again. And there was no true reward that I would get out of it. No one was saying that if I wake up at 4:15 a.m. for 9 months straight, then I would get $1 million by the end of the night at the end of the 9 months. But I just was so convinced in my head. I created so many storylines in my head that if I don't wake up today, like people are gonna see that I'm not a man of my word. Like I was posting on Instagram every single day as another form of accountability. And people would see that I'm not a man of my word. People wouldn't trust me ever. I wouldn't be able to amount to anything. Like I was so fucking delusional in the head. What the foundation is that you have to have a level of delusion that drives you to be more and more successful. One thing I hold close to me is the mindset of that the depth of your struggle determines the height of your success. And I'm thinking, okay, I came from suburbia. I don't have a grand depth. Like the worst thing that I had to do was maybe, go to public school, which, I'm blessed enough to even go to public school, but I fucking hated public school. Um, but that's not really a depth for me. Like I wasn't really struggling. Like I hated going to classes. I hated putting myself to school. But in reality, there are many kids who are my age that would die for the chance just to have that education. And I had to create that struggle in my head. Not to say that I intentionally put myself in bad situations to try to get myself to a higher success level, but for example, When I moved down to Miami, Florida for the first time, September 1st, I think it's 1st or 2nd, 2025, there was no good reason for me to move down here. I had a buddy who told me that, hey, I have a job for you and I have a house for you to stay at. I had no clue what that meant. He just said, like, all right, you have enough reasons, you have enough, security to actually go down there. Of course, all of the emotions were running through my head because I've lived in Virginia for pretty much all my life. Um, and I was scared to like move from my hometown and take that leap of faith. So all the emotions obviously running through my head, but I want to do more. I want to, get out of my comfort zone. I realized that nothing can grow in the shade of comfort. So I was like, fuck it. I'm going down to Miami. And I didn't know it, but the house that he was living in, my boy was living in, it looked like a nice house from the inside. Like it was pretty nice. And if you see the vlogs on my YouTube channel, which I documented my time living there, um, it was pretty nice. But the neighborhood that it was in, and this was God reaffirming the other day, but the neighborhood it was in is called Little Haiti. And I had a news report come from a channel in Little Haiti saying that a man was stabbed to death on the street that I lived on. And the place that I lived in was literally the hood. Like it's one of the worst places to live in Miami, like safety wise. So the entire time I lived there, I was like, bro, I have to do anything that I can to get out. I have to do anything that I can to get out. And that was me struggling. I was working 12-hour shifts. I was with a job that I was working, which I was a locksmith. I was marathon training. So I'd wake up at like 4 a.m., go marathon train for 2 hours, and then boom, 10-hour shift doing locksmith and just driving all throughout south of Florida. And I was just going through the fucking trenches at the time, just trying to make my way out. I didn't know it would be, this quick for me to get my own place where I live, fortunately, in a very safe environment right now in the heart of Miami. But I mean, that's what it took. Like, I didn't intentionally put myself in that situation, which I kind of did unknowingly. But I was so like I was so fearful of the environment that I was in. I was like, I need to fucking get out. This is terrible. Like, I can't stay in this house where I was living in Miami. And, it took that level for me to upgrade my lifestyle, for me to commit every single day, even when my body didn't feel like it, even when I didn't feel like it physically, mentally, whatever, even when I wanted to take a rest day, even when wanted to like just sit back and just chill for a day. There were days where, I would get back from running maybe 20 miles at a time, and like I would take a shower, just sit in my bed for like 5 minutes, and then boom, I get a call to go to fucking an hour away of a drive, and then that hour away of a drive would be a client who, when I get there, he's like, matter of fact, I don't need the service. So my time wasted, drove, gas wasted, but I was willing to do that. I was willing to take those sacrifices, and that's what it took. So the premise of this video is that if you don't have the urgent, because the thing is that this struggle, this delusion, it drives urgency. It drives urgency to do the things that you don't want to do every single day. It drives you doing, working a 12-hour shift when your body is aching, your mind is aching, you can't even fucking focus. You feel like you're literally mentally falling asleep. You feel like you can't, like it hurts to produce ideas, but you're just trying anything you can to put something to fucking make shit stick on the wall. But if you are in that delusional state where you do have this storyline running through your head, like literally create some shit up in your head. Think, if I don't get out, if I don't move out my parents' place, like I was falling asleep every single night in my parents' place when I lived back in Virginia. The only thing that was on my mind when I was going to sleep every single night was, I need to get out of here. There was no one telling me that I need to move out my parents' place. There was no one saying that, dude, what are you doing? Like, why do you live with your parents? Like, no one was saying that. And honestly, when I asked my friends, I was saying, like, I want to move out so bad. I want to go to Miami. They were saying, like, bro, what the fuck? You're rushing it so quick. Like, because I just dropped out of college at the time. I was just trying to, like, get my feet planted. And they were saying, like, that you're moving way too quick. Like, this isn't smart. And maybe it wasn't smart, but I think everything works for a reason and everything will happen ultimately. So it fucking worked out. So I was so delusional. I was acting, not in a rational way. And that's what led me to have the urgency and have, the willpower to do the things that I didn't want to do. That's what drove me to do the things that I didn't want to do every single day, even when I was in maximum discomfort. But Yeah, that's the basis of the video, is that you need to create a storyline. You need to have delusion in the head. You need to be fucking crazy, act unrational to have the urgency to be hyper successful. And this is characteristics that I wish I knew from the start, because honestly, people don't tell you this kind of stuff. This information is out there, but no one will actually tell you why this matters and how it will apply towards your success. And if you found value in this video, I would appreciate you subscribing and hitting the like button. I post everything in real time on my Instagram, which is in the caption of this video. But yeah, I'm trying to grow this channel up, so I'd appreciate any support. It really means a lot to me, and I genuinely do enjoy reading the comments. I genuinely do enjoy like building up this community. So I appreciate each and every one of y'all. So I'm gonna go ahead and end off this video now, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.